Hello everybody and welcome to our SysKit webinar. We thank you all for joining and we hope you're all doing well. Today's topic will be Introduction to SysKit 2016 R2. We will present you the new SysKit features and show you how they work. Now to introduce myself, my name is Silvio and I'm a product marketing manager at Acceleratio. Here with me we have Frane, our SysKit product owner, who will also be today's presenter. Please say hello to our attendees, Frane.
Hello guys.
So, as most of you already know, Acceleratio is a software development company based in Croatia. We specialize in creating enterprise solutions for platforms like Sharepoint, Windows servers, Citrix, and so on. We currently have over 2,000 clients from across the globe, and many of them are big-name companies such as Intel, Coca-Cola, and Vodafone. All of the companies in this slide are our clients, and we're proud to say that many of them bought more than one of our products. What you can see here is a full palette of our products. And if you'd like to know more about any of them, just check out the Acceleratio webpage or contact our sales team. They have all the information you need. Now I'm going to guide you through today's webinar agenda. First off, we'll go through a few housekeeping rules and explain how can you ask your questions for this webinar. After that, we'll do a short SysKit product overview. That overview will be followed by feature presentation and demo led by our Frane here. At the end of the webinar, we'll have the Q&A sessions for your questions. Of course, you'll have some at the end of this webinar. Now, let's start with a few housekeeping rules. A recording of this webinar will be available online for you very soon, probably a few days after this webinar. All interested attendees will receive a 30% discount of the newest SysKit upgrade. All you need to do is contact our great sales team and they will sort this offer out for you in a minute. At the end of the webinar, we will dedicate about 10 minutes to do a Q&A session where we will answer some of your questions publicly. Webinar summary will also be available online on our SysKit blog, so be sure to check it out later. Let me shortly explain what SysKit is, for those who are not familiar with it. SysKit is a server monitoring tool focused on helping system admins and consultants in their daily work. It enables monitoring of server environments like Windows servers, Citrix, SharePoint, SQL, and more. With SysKit you can monitor user activity, application usage, and server performance. Data collection with SysKit is agentless, meaning you can monitor all your servers from one central console. There is no need to install absolutely no need to install anything else on your servers, since everything is done from one central console. A SysKit web application is also available, meaning you can monitor your servers basically from anywhere. All you need is an internet connection and a computer that can use a browser, that can be a smartphone or a tablet. What you can see here is an overview of what you can really do with SysKit. Now, first of all, SysKit provides you with a number of reports, each presenting information about your server environment. All those reports are easily exportable, and you can set up intelligent alerting to notify you when something unusual or unpredictable happens on your servers. That way you will know when you need to react on certain events happening. One of the most important SysKit features, the server performance monitoring, gives you an overview of your system status and enables you to track all performance counters you need. That includes CPU, memory, disk space, and plenty of other specific counters that can be like SharePoint specific or SQL specific. The important stuff is you can monitor all of them. And there's also a system audit, so you can monitor user logon attempts, block IPs, and review all file changes in your system. Now let's move on to the SysKit features we're really here to present you. So SysKit 2016 R2 enables you to monitor SharePoint performance in real time. And you can track all, and I really mean all performance metrics out there. Why is SharePoint performance monitoring important? Well, for example, you can find out why page load issues occur, or you can determine why is your database experiencing latency issues. Well, simply to put it in the most global context I can, it helps you provide optimal server usage to all your end users, and that's what we aim for in this business. You can also receive real-time alerts for any of chosen performance counters. There's one more important thing. This feature is not for SharePoint only. You can use this to monitor performance on all server roles in your system, including Citrix XenApp, ES, SQL, etc. So there will be a webinar later dedicated to this feature only, and you'll be sure to not miss our newsletters and keep an eye for that webinar, if you are more interested, of course. So the next feature here is closely related to the last one. SysKit allows you to create monitoring templates for each server role and apply them to your servers or groups. You see, the problem SysKit just solved for you here is this one, to explain it. Monitoring different server roles doesn't work well using only one list of performance counters because different roles have different counters that should be monitored and different thresholds that should be watched for. What you require are multiple templates with specific performance counters and services for each server role. And that's exactly what SysKit is providing you with in this feature. Now, for the last but not the least important feature, automated server documentation, you can generate detailed server documentation simply by running PowerShell scripts through SysKit. Those scripts can either be imported from us or they can be written by you. You can find them somewhere on the internet. It doesn't matter. You can run all of them, and there's a validate button in case you are not sure that scripts work. All documentation reports can automatically be compared over different servers and over different time periods. That's the best way for you to easily audit any changes made in your system to your server configuration or something like that. That generated documentation can be exported to Excel or PDF format, making it presentable to your end clients. I would also like to mention that webinar on this specific feature is also planned in the near future, so keep an eye for that also. Now Frane will be presenting a live demo of SysKit 2016 R2 features.
Thank you, Silvio. Let me just change the screen to my demo application. Okay, so I will present you the most important features in this one of the biggest releases of SysKit that we have up to date. So basically we'll focus on the performance monitoring of the SharePoint farms and the Citrix servers and the other servers. Then we'll show you how to create templates, and then we'll show you what we created with automated server documentation and how you can customize this in your environment. So let's go to the administration tab. So there is a new feature where basically you can define a template for each server role that you have in your environment. So when you install the application, it comes with some of the predefined server roles. So we decided for now just to create few server roles that are monitoring SharePoint farms. So basically the application comes with predefined roles for the SQL server, for the IaaS server, and for the SharePoint application server. Now every role in the SharePoint server has performance counters that are important for that particular server role. basically, when application starts monitoring the performance of the remote servers, we have a set of predefined counters that are enabled for all the servers. So that is just the basic stuff like CPU, memory, network throughput, I/O read bytes and write bytes for the disk, and basically then on that server you can apply the template that is important for that particular server. So let's take a look at the SQL server. So for this SQL server template, we have created a template that monitors, for example, these are the most important counters for this particular SQL server. So you have user connections, lazy writes, batch requests, and one of the most important performance metrics for the SQL servers is number of transactions per second. For each counter that is on the server, you can define the thresholds. So this is a demo only, so I have defined just the small thresholds for the warning and critical threshold. So what this means is when application detects that some of the performance counters is over a particular threshold, then application will try to alert you that something is going on with your environment. Okay. So let's take a look at web frontend, for example, role. So web frontend role on the SharePoint server is something, so the web frontend is basically the IIS service, and basically we have created the most important roles for the IIS server on the Windows. So you can check that performance counters that we are monitoring are monitoring anonymous users per second, current connections, GET requests, and the performance that is really important for the IIS service on the Windows server. What is cool about this is the application comes with a set of predefined templates, and basically if you wish, then you can create a template that is specific to your server role. So you can include, for example, Citrix, remote desktop services, Exchange server, whatever you want. When you add the server, you can create a server group. So for example, for this demo, we have created a computer group, and all the computers that are in this group are part of the computer group SharePoint farm. And basically, then when you include different servers, you can classify, okay, this server is part of the SharePoint farm, and this server is the app server in this particular SharePoint farm. And then when you create a monitoring template for Citrix or Exchange or a file server or domain controller, something like that, you can classify each server and then monitor only the performance counters that are really important for that server role. Okay, let's take a look at the new monitoring dashboard that we created for the performance monitoring. So basically now you have one dashboard where you have the most important metrics in your farm. So I have only one computer group, so I created the SharePoint farm, but you get the idea. You can create the SharePoint farm, SQL cluster, Citrix farm, Citrix production farm, non-production farm, QA, user acceptance, and then basically you can monitor all the servers from this single console. And then from each group, you will receive a number of critical or warning alerts that are happening in that particular environment. Here below, we have the top computers by CPU utilization. So basically this shows you the computers that are using the most of the CPU in your environment. On the right, we have the top servers by memory consumption, and we have the computers by disk space. So basically this is, even today, the most important counter that we saw with our customers, because one of the outages that happens the most frequently with our customers is just the server runs out of the disk space. So this is really important to take a look what exactly is happening with your servers. Okay, so something is going on in your environment and you want to check what exactly is going on, so we click on the red part of this graph. And basically when you click on the red, then it will show you that particular server farm and the servers, and it will mark the server that is where something is going on with that particular counters on this particular server. So we see that something is going on with the SQL server. What we do is we just drill down to check what exactly is there. So when I double click, we have a server overview. So these are the details about this particular server. You can check the CPU usage, memory, disks that are running on this server, network throughput, and top CPU, top processes that are using resources on this particular server. What is different about SysKit and the other applications? So the other applications like Microsoft SCOM, it can, so the SCOM can look at the counters up to the server level, but the SCOM cannot monitor the applications that are running in that particular server. So what we do is we extract the CPU usage for all the applications, and then we can check what exact application is using the most of the CPU resources on this particular server. And this is what we created new in the SysKit version 8 or 2016 R2 is basically on this SQL server, the application will basically show you that something is going on with the SQL counters on the server. So let's drill down to check what is exactly going on. So let's click on the SQL, then on the performance counters for the SQL server, and then we check that the counters for the template that we created for the SQL server are all green, but one that is running red. So let's expand this, and we can check that based on our threshold that we configured, something is going on with the transactions per second. So if we drill down, we can see that total transactions on the SQL server are around 180. This is just the demo data. Don't pay attention to the numbers. And let's drill down on the SQL server to check which database is taking the most resources. So for example, on this SQL server, we can check that the SQL server database SP16 farm_config is taking the resources as we configured the thresholds for this particular server. So the idea is to have one central console to monitor all your different servers. So if you have SQL servers, SQL clusters, Sharepoint servers with the web frontends, application servers, or some other server roles, you can all add that into the SysKit, and then you can configure the application to alert you and to check what exactly is going on with this particular performance counters on the remote servers. Okay, so let me now show you what else is new about the automated server documentation. So we created a feature that basically allows you to create a server documentation for whatever you add into the SysKit. So basically we created some kind of a platform where you can write a PowerShell script, and then PowerShell script, it connects to some kind to the domain controller, to the Sharepoint server, to the Windows server, or to something else that is exposed through the PowerShell, and then you can document whatever you write in that PowerShell script. So let me show you an example. So I have created a sample of predefined scripts that are getting some data from the Active Directory, and there is a scheduled task report Basically, this script is really simple. Let me show you how it looks. So what you can create is just a script, a PowerShell script, that you can execute as a PowerShell commandlet, and then basically this PowerShell script provides you all the data, for example, about the scheduled tasks on this server. And what we did is when you create a script, the script gets the data into the snapshot, and then you can compare the different snapshots over time. So for example, this particular PowerShell script that we created for one of the clients lists all the scheduled tasks for all the servers, and basically then you can check what is different between the snapshots on the different servers that you have in your environment. Let me show you an example of the connection to the Active Directory. So I have a script that basically, let me select this server. I have a script that basically lists all the users in the Active Directory, and then if there is any change in the Active Directory, the application will detect that and it can inform you that something has changed in your Active Directory. So let me show you how this works. If we go to snapshots, and then if we click manage snapshots, we have a list of all the snapshots that the application created over time. So a snapshot is a file when we get the data from, for example, from the domain controller or the SharePoint server or just a regular Windows server, we store all the data that we captured from the server into the snapshot. And then you have that in the SysKit, and then you can compare configuration over time, you can compare configuration over two servers, you can check what exactly is going on. So let me compare for this particular server these two configurations. Let me click compare selected, and now the application will compare over time what has changed in this particular snapshots. And let me scroll down to the get ID user, and basically now the application shows on the left and on the right the list of all users that exist in the Active Directory. And now there is a small icon that can only show you the differences between snapshot, and we can check that on 22nd of September these two users in our contoso.local Active Directory were enabled, and in the snapshot that was created 3 days ago somebody disabled these particular users. So you get the idea. You can write a PowerShell script that connects to the Active Directory, that reads the particular data from the AD, that connects to the scheduled tasks to the SharePoint, to the Exchange, and then you can read the data, and then you can compare configuration change over time. So that is, we created some kind of a platform where you can write a PowerShell script, and then that PowerShell script is used to get different set of configurations from the remote servers. Okay, so this is regarding, so this webinar will not be so, will be really short, so we wanted to show you the most important features in the software. So this is the automated server documentation. Basically, it allows you to write a PowerShell script and then to capture some data from the remote servers, and performance reports where you can add basically any server that you have in your environment, and then the application will monitor the performance of that particular server. So this comes only on top of all the previous features that we have in the application that Silvio mentioned about the capturing user log-on, log-off activity, application reports, licensing, event logs, and stuff like that. Okay, Silvio, can I change to you back?
Yes, feel free. Okay, so Frane just demonstrated the new features SysKit brought you, and hopefully you'll all agree with us that they are really, really great. Now it's time for our Q&A session, and we have a couple of interesting questions from the audience. I will ask the questions, and Frane, as the product owner, will answer them. First, we have a question from Yarrow. He would like to know, is it possible to dedicate a monitoring template to Citrix? And what should he specifically be monitoring for Citrix?
Okay, so let me just change back to me so I can show you in the application what is going on. So I will just show you how to create a new template. Silvio, can you see my screen?
No, no, maybe not. Now I can see it, yes, it's okay.
Yeah, so basically the idea is when you are creating a new template, you can select whatever you want to have in that particular template. So let me show you what is going on here. We'll create, let's say, a remote desktop services template. Let's say description will be remote desktop services. And we want to configure monitoring for the performance counters and for the Windows services as well. So let's click Next. Let's connect. I do not have any RDS server, but if we load, for example, from this one, I will show you what is going on. So basically, when you define the counters, you select the server where you have that specific role that you want to monitor. And then the application reads all the performance counters from that remote specific server, and then we ping the remote server every 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever you define for the number of this specific performance counters. Now, the important thing to mention here is this is completely agentless. So we are using WMI, and basically all the Windows API that we use to gather this data about the performance counters. So for example, if I select here remote desktop services, and for example on this server I have only these counters, I can create it, and then I can create whatever thresholds I want for that specific counters. I can define warning or critical thresholds. I can create specific, I can use this template to monitor the services that are important for that specific template as well. So if I select all the remote desktop services, remote desktop configuration licensing services, and this basically means that the application, if service is stopped for whatever reason, the application, when it checks the server for the performance counters, it can start the service if for whatever reason the service was stopped. And basically this is true for any other role. So for example, really important is this for the Sharepoint farms. So basically if the Sharepoint timer service or the SQL server or whatever else gets stopped, then basically you can restart the service automatically, and the application will send you an alert that something is going on with the service on that particular server. And this is it. So I have created, so the question was for the Citrix server, but this is for the remote desktop services server, but you get the idea. So the application creates now a new template, and then you can assign this template to some particular, let's say this computer right here is a remote desktop services computer, and then now the application starts to monitoring all these important counters that are important for the remote desktop services. And it is the same for Citrix. You can add all the Citrix specific services and performance counters, and then the application will monitor that.
Okay, now we have the second question, and it is from Martin. He would like to know if he can use PowerShell scripts for system administration or they are used for documentation reporting only.
Okay, so that is a really good question. So basically, just a sec. So basically, you can, at the moment, you can use, let me go to the inventory, you can use the PowerShell scripts and commandlets only to report about the specific configuration on your remote desktop services. And basically, for example, on the Active Directory or whatever else. And basically, this is only a reporting feature, but in next 2 months or something like that, there will be a new feature that will be available on the administration, and there you will have a repository of your PowerShell scripts. And then basically you will be able to write any kind of a script, and you will be able to execute that script on the remote server. Because basically when we developed version 8, now we are able to check if the remote PowerShell is enabled on the remote server, and then basically if the remote PowerShell is enabled, you can use the PowerShell scripts to get the configuration, and in the future, in next few months, when we announce the feature for the PowerShell administration, you will be able to use this for administration of your Windows servers.
Okay, so the next question comes from Davi. He wants to know what else can be used for PowerShell. Can he connect to something else as well, or is there some kind of customization he can do with it?
So the PowerShell, so whatever has the PowerShell exposure, so let's say System Center, Configuration Manager, Exchange, SQL Server, Sharepoint Server, Windows Server, and all these different roles in the Windows Server. So for example, tasks or managing or whatever else, wherever you are able to connect with the PowerShell, that can be used to implement this into your environment. So basically, with PowerShell, there is no limitation. If there is exposure for the PowerShell to some of the Microsoft servers or platforms, you can use our application to connect to that.
Okay, now we have another PowerShell question. Bruce asks us, does he need to license one or more domain controllers in order to run those Active Directory PowerShell inventory scripts?
The application is licensed per monitored server. So for example, if you have a single domain controller, then you need to have one license to run these scripts. If you have, for example, multiple domain controllers, or you would like to execute these AD scripts against multiple domains, then you will need a license for each domain controller where you want to capture this data. So when you license the server inside the application, we don't care what is on that server. So if it is a Active Directory on the domain controller, you can use the scripts. Let me show you. You can use these Active Directory scripts. If you want to get the scheduled tasks for one from that particular server, you can use this as well. If you are running the SharePoint on that server, you can use the PowerShell to get the SharePoint data from that server. So we just care about the license for the server. If you have license for any server that you have in your environment, then you can execute these PowerShell scripts.
Now we have one short question for you, Frane. John would like to know how many monitoring templates can he have at once?
Well, basically, we created just few. This is just an example of what you can do with the application, but basically there is no limitation. You can even combine different templates with one particular server. So, for example, if you are running, so this is a good example because in a lot of environments, users are running remote desktop license servers on the domain controllers. So, for example, you can create two templates. One template will be for the remote desktop services licensing, and another one will be for the domain controller. And then you can apply both templates to that one server. So basically, there is no limitation. Okay, let me read another question. From Peter. Peter is asking how the PowerShell works in the background and what needs to be enabled on the remote servers in order for this to work. Is there a log on what has to be has been executed on the remote servers? So basically, we are just using the remote PowerShell execution on the remote servers, and everything that you need to execute on the remote servers is enabled PS remoting. And when you execute that, let me just show you the column chooser. So when you enable the PowerShell remoting, the application, the SysKit, will check if we are able to execute the commands on the remote server, and that's about it. When you enable the PowerShell remoting, then basically you can execute whatever you want on the remote servers. And there is, I'm not sure if I have in this application SysKit permissions. No, I do not have in this demo, but basically there is a report that tells you that what scripts have been executed on what servers. So there is a log of what particular servers are executing what particular scripts at what time and stuff like that. So there is an audit log of what has been executed on what servers. Silvio, are you back?
Yes, I'm back, and we have one last question that we're gonna do today in this webinar. Doran is curious how much of the overhead is there on the remote servers?
So I mentioned that earlier. We are using WMI for capturing the performance counters, for capturing the user reports and everything that has to do with the application. We are using the RDP or ICA API. So basically, we offload everything to this to the SysKit server. So we are using just APIs from Microsoft and Citrix and the other vendors, and the VMware as well, and VMware Horizon is supported as well. And basically all the calculation, everything that we have is on the SysKit server. So there is no agent. When you install the SysKit application, everything is executed from this particular server. So when you install the application, you have the SysKit service, and basically this SysKit service is running in the background and it is collecting data from all the remote servers. Sylvia, there is another question from Bruce. Do you want to read it?
Bruce is asking, just a second. Did you say there were pre-made PowerShell inventory scripts we could use, and if so, where are they on the website?
So there are no pre-made scripts that we have currently on the website, but that is something that we are working on. So in the future there will be a repository on the website, and basically with the application you will be able to connect to that repository and then to download the script that you want to use. But at the moment, what we do is we discuss with every customer, and basically then we try to discover what that customer, what the requirements are, and then we try to help them, to empower them how to write scripts and how to use it and how to capture all this data from the remote servers. So at the moment, we are just discussing with the customers, and we are trying to show them and to empower them how to use this this feature better.
Okay, Frane, and I will switch back to the presentation now. So this brings us to the end of the Q&A session, and with it to the end of this webinar. Thank you all for joining us today, and if you have any questions, please contact us at support@accelratio.net. Our support is very easy to talk, and they will answer all your questions you have. I wish you a good day, and I hope to see you soon in another one of our webinars. Thank you once again, and bye.
Thank you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.